Hi everyone. Really weird day today. I think it's day 68. I'll find out. It's before bed, which I don't usually vlog so late anymore because I'm tired. I took my gabapentin. I'm not on the Motrin anymore as of yesterday. And for whatever reason, my right stitches area is really bothering me. I should say for whatever reason. I've been using my right arm more than typical, or more than usual, and seams, man. I have those white bras that have the zipper in the front, and they're great because there's no seam on the side, but because it has the zipper in the middle, it's like chunky, and I've been sleeping with a bra again at night, and it just, it feels like a bunch of, like a big brick on its side in between my two boobs, and it's just not comfortable. And then like the zipper ends up like curling, and it just pushes into me, then it pushes into my skin, and it's just not comfortable. And then I have like the black bra, which is usually like my nice comfy go-to, but it does have, it's super stretchy, but it does have seams down the side. So I don't know if that's what's causing it. I went to the oncologist today, so that's the big thing, I guess, to focus on. Though I can't focus too much because there's still a lot of questions to be answered about that. But when I went to the oncologist, I wore a black long sleeve shirt that had a wide neck because I'm like, oh yeah, I can just pull, now that I've figured out the cowl neck secret, I do have black shirts that are long sleeved that I can wear underneath the sleeveless hoodies I have. Clothes are such a pain in the neck with this whole thing. But even with the wide neck, anything that has like a form-fitting sleeve does not work. Because the sleeve just fit, like this is a bigger sleeve. But the sleeve comes up way too close to my armpit, and then it rubs against my armpit, and those are super sensitive, whatever. Which brings me to lymph nodes, which brings me back to the oncologist. So, yeah, so today's the day I'm at my oncologist. It's very curious as to her bedside manner, because, you know, it's either, I don't know, I've had mostly very positive experiences with doctors with all this stuff. And I'm like, I hope she's great. Pretty much everyone in the main hospital where I had the surgery done is like very friendly and stuff, with very minor exceptions. But the place was hopping today. I don't know why. Is it a Monday? Today's not even Monday, so I don't even know why it was so busy. But we couldn't even find a parking spot, so we did valet, and the main hospital is to your left, and the cancer center is to your right. And I walked in there by mistake when I went to go to the plastic surgeon follow-up. I had never been there before either out of that hospital. So when you look to the left, it's the hospital that I'm so used to being in. Even before all this stuff happened, my regular doctors are in there. So I go there every year or maybe twice a year, whatever, for routine stuff. But I've never looked to the right. Like there's a pretty little garden that's in between the two buildings, but on the right, and I'm pretty sure it's red letters, which I get they're red so that you can see them better, but like red is like the color of like evil. And it says Cancer Center in big black or bold red letters. Block letters, that's what I was looking for. And then it has the pretty logo on it, whatever. But the point is, like, I don't want to go to the building on the right. I want to go in the hospital with all the people that I know and I like, whatever. So we go in and sit in the waiting room. The waiting room is really big. And I'm looking around, and pretty much everyone there is in pairs. Not necessarily couples, just pairs. I mean, like, not like romantic couples. Like, there was two women that were there that seemed similar in age to me. And I'm thinking, everyone here has cancer. That sucks. And when I went to check in, I saw a sign that said infusion center or something. And I'm like, oh, that's where people go for their chemo. Like, I don't want to be there. Anyway, so we go sit in the waiting room, and it just, I mean, big picture wise, I'm not a science person. I don't get what's behind all of it. I just don't get why, out of all the things and all the advances in science, why are cancer cells still so complex? That granted, we've come a very long way in like treatments and all of that stuff, and cancers that people used to have that they die from, like, you know, people don't die from them really anymore. So I know we've come very far, but like, why is it still such a large part of life and how it affects people? Like, why can't someone do something? There's so many crazy smart people out there to like eradicate this thing or figure out like what's going to make it stop. You could take, like, granted it's a virus, so it's different, but like COVID, that hit like a year and a half ago or something, and now it's a vaccine. And I get this, it's a virus, and you probably can't have a vaccine for cancer because it's not viral. But if you can find a vaccine to stop like this coronavirus, or at least slow it down for the people that are doing their part, to like, impact the entire globe, because COVID is happening everywhere. New Zealand might be the only country where it's not as bad. Like, I think the numbers are like ridiculously small. Or maybe if any, I don't know. But I just don't get why it's like cancer has hit a ridiculous amount of people. Anyway, so got called in, and oh my God, they weighed me in. I wasn't even so much worried about my weight, because I figured it would be, I've put on like 10 pounds since a year ago, which with all the bloatedness or whatever the heck is going on with my stomach, like, makes sense that something's off. But holy cow, I'm not telling you people the number. But I was like, what? She's like, well, you have your shoes on. I'm like, my shoes don't weigh 10 pounds. Like, holy cow. And I know I'm holding a ton of fluids. I know that. Like, there's a lot of stuff draining, which is something I should mention too, because I think I mentioned yesterday that I've had some drainage coming out of where my stitches are. And they told me to put Aquaphor on it with a non-stick gauze on top. That's still going on. Actually, no, I talked about it yesterday because I remember doing the same thing yesterday that I'm doing right now. Yeah, I have it on both sides. And it's not a lot. It's just that it's there. It doesn't make me happy, but I'm quite sure it's because I've been like overdoing too much. And by overdoing today, it was like getting up and going to this appointment, whatever. Anywho. So I go in and they're asking me a whole ton of questions. Audio recording, again, awesome. I have only come across one person, and that said that she did not want to have me audio record the appointment, but it was a nurse, not a doctor. And most stuff that she said, I kind of went in one ear and went out the other because I ended up seeing somebody different. Anyway. Oh, yeah, even when I take a deep breath in, it just hurts. Like, everything hurts. My side really hurts. I don't even know what the hell to do about that. Like, my front hurts. It's itchy where those pads are. Like, the bra's underneath my armpit on this side, and it hurts. It's just everything hurts. I'm going to take 2 Tylenol before I go to bed. But the Tylenol is like nothing. And the gabapentin is definitely helping with the twinges of pain. I'm not having those. But I would honestly rather have the twinges of pain than have this constant feeling of like, like I can't even describe. It's the nerve endings, I'm sure. I don't feel comfortable. It's like wearing polyester. Like, I don't like polyester at all. Yeah, it's like I'm wearing a polyester tracksuit. No. Actually, but even the pillow, I don't know where Tex went to. And I can't go around to reach that. I'm going to grab this scarf because I'm having some sensory something right now and I can't reach my Play-Doh. Wait, can I? Hold on. See, I can't. This is the problem. Like, this is what I mean. I can't. I'm literally like a foot away and I can't reach over because I know that there's Play-Doh in that bin and I can't get to it without getting up, and that's a production. It's just annoying and I'm just uncomfortable. Like, I just want to go to sleep. I didn't sleep well last night. I actually ordered at like 4 a.m. I've been up since 4, partly because of the oncology appointment. I ordered this this wedge system, which I probably should have ordered a while ago, but not getting enough sleep and having that pile up is not helping. But it's a wedge. It has 4 pieces. It's, the one piece goes up against the bed as a triangle. The other part is contoured. I think it's memory foam. Then there's a neck rest that Velcros onto the memory foam part. And there's also a triangle part that goes over or underneath your knees. Right now I have a pillow that goes under my knees, but it keeps like shifting at night. And it's like it's gotten so flat over all this time, so it's not really helping me. Anyway, so yeah, the weight on the scale, I was like, holy cow. At least when she measured me, I was 5'7", so that made me happy because I don't like when I'm 5'6"3/4, because I used to almost be 5'8", and as I'm getting older, you start to shrink. But man, yeah, I was like, holy cow, that's a lot of weight. But it's fluid. That's what I'm going with. It's a lot of swelling. I know I have a lot of swelling. There's obviously stuff draining out of me. Not 10 pounds worth, but still. So the doctor came in. Super great bedside manner. She apologized for running over, which was a nice way to walk in. Not that she was late, because, I don't know, usually you have to sit there waiting a little bit before they walk in. And she was super thorough. It's, again, I'm pretty sure it's day 68. So it's been a long time since diagnosis, since surgery. Today's Tuesday. So it's a little bit over 3 weeks. It was 3 weeks this past Friday. Wow, that means it will almost be a month soon. But anyway, she brought up all the reports that I have not been reading, and I explained to you, I know I'm talking slow, sorry, not sorry. I wasn't ready to hear like what they did to me until I can't remember what appointment it is. They're honestly all starting to blur together because it's like kicked up again where I have a lot of appointments. I feel like it was the plastic surgeon nurse that told me. But that was from their end. I didn't hear from the breast surgeon's side, like, what exactly they did. I'm sure she told me in the hospital the next day, and the rest of it is all in those reports, and there's only so many you can read. I'm not even exaggerating at all when I say that I got on the gateway. It wasn't working on my phone for a while. It finally, I don't know, something got fixed on their end. And I went into the gateway and I started looking at the reports, and I'm not exaggerating at all when I say that I went through 50 of them. 50. They only fit that many on a screen. I went through 50 of them and then I had to stop reading because I was just getting tired. 50 reports. That's crazy. So it was a lot of information, and that brought me back to around like the ones that were around the day of surgery. So she went through and she said, you know, I said to her, can you review exactly what was done from, you know, the cancer side of things? I get the plastic surgery part of what they did, and now I want to get the other side, kind of looping backwards. So I'll fill you in on that. So they took my left side, I'll start with, because that was the least invasive of the two. The left side, which when I had the biopsy came up benign, it turns out that I do have precancerous cells in, it's called lobular something or other, and the lobes are like what are at the end of the milk ducts. So there was some weird cell that broke outside of my milk ducts, still linked with the lobule, which is that like cloudy shaped thing at the end of the milk duct. But it was benign, but still something broke loose, and it was questionable. And she said, you know, she said it was a smart idea that I decided to have both removed. And that made me feel a ton better, because when I first heard, well, you didn't have breast cancer on the left side, and I'm like, was it the right call? And I chopped off both, you know, and hearing that there actually was a cell or a mass, whatever, that broke through the milk duct and made some questionable thing that has a name, although it's benign, but leads to cancer or can lead to cancer, made me much more secure in my choice to have both removed. So there's that. And then they removed 2 lymph nodes from my left armpit. And that again was like the benign side. So yeah, so explains why my left armpit hurts too, but not as much as the right. The right's pretty uncomfortable. It's painful. It's achy, I guess. It's like someone punched you in the ribs. That's what it feels like. Not that I've ever been punched in the ribs, but I have had a baseball or a basketball thrown into my face once by accident. And it kind of feels like that, where it's like a dull pain, but it just doesn't go away. It's always there. It's better, I guess. I don't know. It's probably rubbing up against the seam right now, which is why it hurts. So that was the left side. The right side, they told me, or she said the tumor was 2.9 centimeters. That was the main one. That was the invasive ductal carcinoma. And then there was another like smaller one, however many millimeters, I don't remember. That was closer to my nipple, which I knew because they had done the biopsy of that under, with the mammogram. They did a mammogram biopsy of that area. And it was also malignant. And that one, I can't remember. I think was still inside the milk duct, which is in situ, whatever. There's like 3 kinds of different areas and names, and like I have all 3. It's just that the one that's lobular is not cancerous, but very well could have turned into something. So, but then she's counting, and that was the point where I got to in the reports where I stopped reading after a while, because you're counting how many lymph nodes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait, did I count that right? Going back up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 7. 7 lymph nodes they took out of the right side. I want to message my breast surgeon and ask her why 7, because to me that sounds like a lot. And I thought that they weren't all in my armpit. I thought that some were like here and some were at the bottom of my breast, like close to my sternum. So I'm not positive if they were all in my armpit or not, but I know that there was 7 of them. So that's 9 altogether. So it's no wonder that I can't, you know, it hurts to use a fork for a long period of time. It hurts to type. It hurts to do all these things because I had all those lymph nodes taken out. And what I need to do is some research to see, like, long term, what does that mean? I don't think they, like, grow back. You just don't have them. I don't know. I just have to look more information about that. Not right now. This week is a big week. So yeah, she was really good about explaining all of that for me. And she talked about them being estrogen positive and progesterone positive, which I knew, but she was just reiterating, and that it's HER2 negative. So it's good that we know what's fueling the cancer cells. And then they plug in, and this is where I started to zone out, which is why the audio messaging or audio recording is nice. If you have an iPhone, it's like a voice memo thing. And then you can save it as a file and send it to your computer to keep it, whatever. But she started, in the back of my mind, I'm like, what stage am I? What stage am I? What stage am I? Like, I want to know that. I know clinically it was the stage 2, but the clinical part is solely based on the size of the tumor. If it's less than 20 millimeters, it's considered stage 1. If it's 20 to 50, which I thought it was 20 to 40, but she said 20 to 50 is considered stage 2 clinically, and then 50 millimeters and higher is considered stage 3. But that does not mean, that does not equate with like the stages of cancer. That's just solely based on your, on the tumor. So she plugged in all this information as to what they learned about the pathology of what made up the actual malignant tumor, which is kind of interesting. They plug in, what receptors are feeding the cells, and what the size is of the tumor, and just all this other stuff. It literally is like a screen that has blank spots, and you just plug in all the little boxes and put in information, and like it spits out a stage for you. So I am stage 1A, which is good. Stage 4 is not so good, and stage 0 is like phenomenal. When my mom had breast cancer, she was stage 0. So stage 1, again, I didn't analyze too much, but 1 is better than 2, 3, and 4, and A is better than B. So that's where I am, stage 1A. So because they took out a ridiculous amount of lymph nodes and they tested all of them and all of them came back negative, there is no need for radiation, which I kind of knew that, because if they were going to do radiation, I would think that they would have put expanders in and not the final implants. So when I woke up the next day after surgery and found out they put the final implants in, that was one of the first things I thought was, well, I guess things went really well and that the lymph nodes were fine, because when you have radiation done and you have permanent implants put in, the radiation changes the consistency. It like hardens the implants, and then you end up having like misshapen boobs, and you usually have to go back in to have surgery done again. And oftentimes they'll put in the expanders because the expanders will come out, and you'll go through radiation or whatever, not having the final product in there. So when I knew that he put the final implant in there, I'm like, all right, I just assumed that I wouldn't need radiation, because then he wouldn't have done that. So yes, definitely don't need radiation. So the question was about chemo, and she said, given all the indicators, she's like, there's no reason for them to have any thoughts that the cancer has spread at all. So there's no reason to do chemotherapy, which is great news. Why I'm not jumping up and down about it, I really don't know. Again, the processing part, I don't know why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. I wasn't so scared about having chemo. I like playing with my hair color. So, and I've always wanted blue hair, and I know you have to bleach your hair blonde in order to color it blue, and it would kind of destroy my hair, and I have really good hair when I style it, whatever. And I'm like, I'm not afraid to lose my hair. I wonder what I'd look like bald. I don't know. And I know that's not the only thing. What was weird is I remember when I found out that when I was in my living room and I got the call and I found out that my biopsy questionable areas were malignant. One of the very first things, if not the first thing that popped into my head was, who's going to hold back my hair when I vomit in the toilet because I'm single? And I just had that thought in my head. I guess you see that in the movies, like people throwing up in the toilet after they have chemo treatments. And I'm like, it's COVID. I don't have a live-in person living here, except for my son, and I'm not, I wouldn't have him do that. He knows now how to make a ponytail, so that's pretty cool. But I wouldn't have him do that. But it doesn't matter because it's not a reality. But that was the first thing that I thought of, was like, I pictured that from the movies, people throwing up in the toilet and their hair falling out and whatever. And like, I'm not afraid of wearing hats and having a bald head, and I can like rock out the red lipstick with the bald head and pencil in my eyebrows or whatever. I don't know. I don't know why I feel like I do about them telling me I don't need chemo. I should be super happy. And I don't know why I'm not jumping up and down. I don't know. Stay tuned, because I guess maybe in a couple of days or a week or a month, I'll understand why. I don't know. It's just weird. All this is just weird. So then the question was, and I don't have a final answer for this, and obviously I always run things by my kids before I vlog about them, but, I did tell them all the stuff that I'm telling you. So then the discussion was medication, which I figured that was a given. And one thing that I'll say too is, two things before I get into the medication part. I've noticed, and I'm not harping on the negative with this, but I noticed that there's particular people that have been helping me, like on my tribe, who check in all the time, and are people I probably, well, some I see a lot socially and some I don't. But I'm pleasantly surprised with some of those people that I've become very vulnerable with and thankful with and comfortable enough to ask for things like, can you go to Whole Foods for the 4th time? Because you're the only place that has the electrolyte stuff that I like to drink that's not loaded in sugar. If I have too much sugar, I get headaches. And adding headaches to all this stuff is not good for me. But what's interesting is that the number of phone calls and texts that I get has dwindled. I'm getting more cards now, which is nice, because it's nice to surround myself with that in my kitchen, which I asked for, and I'm glad that that's actually happening. But one of my friends who has some chronic health stuff going on, and she's a super powerhouse, but she said to me, people think, and I guess I probably did too, that, for my case, like, you have breast cancer and okay, you have your breast removed and then that's it. Like, life just goes back to normal. Problem solved. And that's not how it is. I admit I thought the same thing too. Like, okay, cancer's gone, go about your day. That's just not the case. And it's expected that, like, I didn't know about the medication part until my cancer diagnosis. But, I would think it's expected then radiation or chemo could be part of that. I didn't know being on a medication for like 5 years after your surgery is just something systemic instead of chemo that people would do depending on your circumstances. And there is more than one medication, which I found out today too. So what's interesting is that, is the misunderstanding that when you have a mastectomy or a lumpectomy or whatever, that like, okay, it's over. It's not over. I still can't drive. I still can't go. Like, I can, my arm, like here I am to the side right now. I can go like here and then it really starts to hurt. Like it hurts here. I don't want to do that for too long, but it really hurts. And on paper, my leave ends in 2 weeks. And I'm like, I can't drive to work. I can't carry my laptop upstairs. I can't put it over my shoulder. How is that even supposed to happen? And granted, like 2 weeks is 2 weeks, you know, whatever. But I don't know how that would happen. And I didn't, you know, I thought you just have a surgery and you rest and then you're just back at it. I didn't get all the other moving pieces. Even when it comes to clothes, clothes are such a trigger. Like you wake up in the morning and it's like, what uncomfortable bra are you going to wear today? Because even like the bra that's comfortable in one spot, like because my belly is still so big and bloated and whatever, is like it rolls up, you know, and one bra will work for 6 hours and then it just doesn't work anymore. And then all of a sudden you have this stuff coming out of you and you're like, well, what the hell is that now? And it's because I'm doing too much. And I'm like, I'm hardly doing anything. But it's not over just because you had the surgery done. And this is the first surgery I've ever had done besides like oral surgery. So, you know, I don't get, like I've sprained things before where I've been on crutches and whatever. And I know that takes time too, but like you can still go about your day even if you're on crutches. It just looks different. But not being able to use your hands is quite inconvenient. Like I eat really slow. I eat slow before. Now I eat like really slow because like it hurts my arms even to hold a freaking burger. So yeah, that misunderstanding that you think, okay, you know, she had the mastectomy, so now she's all set. And she doesn't need radiation or chemo, she's all good. I'm like, no, there's a few more moving pieces. And I'm not going to get into too much mostly today because I don't know all the pieces. What was the other thing I wanted to mention? All the different stories, which I think I've mentioned briefly before, but even though breast cancer is so common, unfortunately, it's like, I think I talked about like all the permutations of ways of treating breast cancer, where you have like lumpectomies, single mastectomies, double mastectomies, chemo before, chemo after, you know, different kinds of chemo, when you lose your hair and when you don't, you know, whatever. There's so many different combinations of things, and they're all personal based on that person. So, well, I mean, at least for me, like I would think, okay, you have surgery, radiation, chemo, that's cancer, closed book, whatever. That's so not, there's so many moving pieces. So for me, what I do know for moving pieces, and I don't want to get into this too much because I do have a TMI factor with certain things. There's things to consider. So tamoxifen is one of the medications that I assumed I was going to be on. The thing with tamoxifen is that's the med that you'd be on for like 5 years. And there are some side effects. The goal of the tamoxifen, or the way that it works, is because my cancer cells are estrogen and progesterone fueled, the whole point with your body that's systemic, like chemo affects your whole body, the medication affects your whole body. So if there is like one cancer cell that went rogue and it's feeding off of estrogen and progesterone, if you take the tamoxifen, it will kill off the receptors that basically allow it to suck the hormones in order to feed it. The other thing is basically just getting rid of estrogen and progesterone in your body. So how do you do that? There's lots of factors involving your age and where you are in the whole menopausal cycle. Let's loop back to menstruation. So I myself am kind of in the middle of all of it. I'm definitely not done with everything. So I don't fall clearly into the category of the postmenopausal pill to take. The tamoxifen is for people before menopause, or if they're in perimenopause, which means like your periods could come every 2 days. They could come every 6 months. It's a total crapshoot. You just don't know. That's perimenopause. And that could last for like 7 years, I think, on average, is how long that lasts for. And I personally am probably about like 3 or so years into all that. And the Mirena's kept things pretty under control, but then the Mirena also releases hormones, and I don't want more hormones. So I took the Mirena out because we don't want that feeding the cancer cells. And then having that out of my body just sets my uterus off like, woohoo, party time. And it's not a party that I want to go to. So the thing that gets complicated about tamoxifen for me is my fibromuscular dysplasia, which I have a great vascular doctor. He's like, there's only like 14, I think, FMD clinics in the world, and one of them is at MGH. So my guy is the guy who like writes articles and stuff. He's awesome. And I did a show on Neighbors to Know on YouTube with Pam Mace, and Pam is the head of the FMD Society of America. So the Cleveland Clinic ties in with them. So does MGH. There's several hospitals that do. But they meet once every year to go over like updates with research about FMD. FMD isn't necessarily rare, it's underdiagnosed. The short story and the rest, I'll lead you over to go to YouTube, go to Neighbors to Know. I think it's about halfway through the episodes. I know I was wearing a blue dress because it was also the night of the awards at Bedford TV. And yeah, it was Pam Mace, and it was like, what is FMD? And yeah, just go there to learn more information about it. But the way that it affects me and most people is that it increases your risk of stroke. Daily activities, it doesn't really impact anything other than the fact that I'm on Bayer, and I'm on a low dose of Bayer. And usually when people get older, they're told to go on Bayer anyway. But lifestyle-wise, it has not really impacted me that much. Some people have a stroke or blood clot, or not a blood clot, I'm sorry, aneurysm or something, like some event like that, and that's how they find out they have FMD. I just had a headache, and fast forward, you can hear this story on the Neighbors to Know episode. I had a headache, ended up in the ER, which I'm like, really, isn't that overkill? And then fast forward 3 or 4 doctors later, one of them was like, oh yeah, that's FMD. And here I am. So, but what that means for me is like, I can't jet ski, which sucks because I used to love to do that, but it's not worth my health. I've done it enough that I know what it's like and whatever. I can't basically do anything that's going to jar my neck because I have it in my carotids and I have it in my renal arteries. But then like I had the kidney stone and like my renals are fine. My blood flow is fine. By fine, I mean like fine for FMD. Being on a blood thinner just helps your blood move more smoothly. And if I'm being cryptic about the whole thing, I'm not going to spend the whole time getting into what FMD is now. Truly, go to Neighbors to Know on YouTube, find the episode with Pam Mace, and you can find out stuff. Her story is just absolutely amazing. Crazy of what happened to her. But yeah, no roller coasters anymore for me, but I've been on a ton in my lifetime. So things like that would like jar your neck. Even when I get my hair done at the salon, I have to be careful about how much I hyperextended my neck. But my carotids have been fine. And really FMD hasn't really played into anything. It's not something like you have plaque in your arteries. It's not that at all. It's just the dysplasia of how your fibers act that make up the arterial wall. My arteries, like I don't really have plaque in my arteries, which is great, but that they're totally unrelated to each other. But the point is, if the tamoxifen increases your risk of stroke, and I have FMD, which increases my risk of stroke, I really don't feel like getting a stroke. So that could change things. And if I'm not on the tamoxifen, then the other option is being on the other medication, which I can re-listen to my voice memo. But the other medication is only if you're postmenopausal, which I'm not. And they're like, well, modern science, they can make you postmenopausal. They can inject something. And again, I don't know if this is happening to me. I'm just sharing what I learned. They can inject something in you once a month that basically puts your ovaries to sleep so that they don't work. And then they're not releasing the hormones because they're not really working. And after that, I just kind of like tuned out. Like, what? And I just, whatever. So then I start to think, well, it's my ovaries. You know, my kids are 20 and 17. Am I having more kids? No. Do I really need my ovaries? Should I just have them removed? I don't know. You know, then it brings us to your uterus. Like, you know, people talk about I have a lot of friends who have had hysterectomies. And I'm like, well, should I just get a hysterectomy? Your mind just starts racing about all the possible things to do. Who the heck knows? And I have to just stop right there. Because there's no point in overanalyzing any of that. The reality is, where I am now is that the oncologist, my oncologist, I can accept her. I still don't accept these chickies. My oncologist is going to talk to my vascular doctor about the risks of being on tamoxifen, which I find interesting too with the FMD part, because FMD primarily occurs in women and women who are my age, like around 50. All of that's super intriguing. But when you think about the fact that FMD affects like primarily women, primarily in my age, and you think about how many women are diagnosed with breast cancer, I feel like there needs to be a subdivision in these FMD clinics just for oncology, like FMD oncology department, because you put those two together and it's a pretty large number, you know. Statistically, I mean, to see how that would tie together, because I'm sure there's plenty of people that have FMD that are also breast cancer survivors. And like, what do they do? They might not have needed tamoxifen. They might have gone the chemo and radiation route, but it's just interesting how that's tied together. So they're going to do their thing, and they're going to have their little talk, and they're going to sort things out. This is where I'm like, I'm so not the expert on this. I can read all I want to read. This is all them. And I'll do the research afterwards, you know, to see. But I totally trust that they're going to, you know, they're going to make a recommendation that's going to be the most logical thing for me to do. And I also said, like, you know, since my gynecologist is a hop, skip, and a jump away, she really should be looped into this conversation too, because, you know, if it's something involving my ovaries and I don't really need them anymore, I don't even know what kind of side effects there are of having them removed. And there was no discussion of having them removed. I'm just thinking that in my head. Like, do I want to have a shot every month versus just doing that? I have no idea. So I'm kind of in limbo right now as I wait to hear from them to see what, you know, next steps are. Like, the cancer's out. This is kind of an insurance policy to make sure that I'm good to go. There was also a ranking number that determines, because I said to her, like, you know, you're fairly confident. I'm like, I need numbers. What makes you statistically or numerically confident, given the pathology that, you know, the cancer hasn't spread anyplace else? And they plug in their whatever to come up with the stage. And when they do that, it gives you a number from 0 to, I don't know how high it goes, but I know 25 and under means that chemo is not necessary. Like, it really won't do much. And my number was 7, lucky 7. So that, and then they also give you, like, what's the percent that you would get cancer again. One thing I didn't ask is if they meant all cancers or just breast cancer. Well, how do you get breast cancer if you don't have breasts? Yeah, I don't know. And I'll re-listen to the audio thing. They tell you, like, what your percent is, or percent of likelihood that you would have cancer again. And then some other number that I just can't remember off the top of my head. Again, another reason why those voice memos are good. So it's a lot of information. I'm just a little bit weirded out with my reaction to all of it. My friend that I went with was like crying, so happy for me and stuff. And we went to the beach, had roast beef, because they said that my last blood work came back that I was slightly anemic. So I'm like, let's have steak. I don't usually eat a lot of red meat, but if I'm anemic, I'm like, okay. But they did blood work while I was there, and it came back, and everything was fine. So, but still, it was a really good roast beef sandwich. And then we got ice cream, and then came home, and it was just like a relaxing day, and not relaxing day. I mean, like, it was nice to. I felt like I was like 19 or like in high school, like just not going back to school and just, going to the beach, whatever. And I walked for a bit, obviously, being on the beach, and I was okay. I did have to stop a few times, and I'm sure that's part of why I'm in pain too. And as I'm looking at my foot, like my right foot does look a little bit swollen too. So I've just been doing too much. I need to just spend a little bit extra time on the couch tomorrow, which I'm kind of sick of being on the friggin' couch. I'm sick of all these damn pillows. Once I get that wedge system, that will help. Yeah, I should be jumping up for joy, and I'm not, and I don't really know why. I don't know. I have some other stuff going on that has nothing to do with cancer that's distracting me too. Yeah, I don't know. But it's weird. The processing is weird because, I don't know why I look perplexed. I should be thrilled right now. I should be jumping up and down and well, not literally because of my boobs, but I don't know why I'm, my brow is furrowed. I don't know why. It just is. I take every day as it comes. I don't know. So that was my day with the oncologist today. Oh, and one last thing, which was super weird. I don't know how much I've gotten into this, but years ago I used to read tarot cards. So some of you will just tune out just because I said that, and some of you are going to be super intrigued. But I do see images of people, like shapes, not like faces or anything. I used to see faces and stuff, not really anymore. It's mostly shapes. The house I used to live in had a lot of just negative energy there. That house was messed up. It's a beautiful house, but the energy in there is just not good. In my apartment, I see shapes of people pretty much in one of two places, and it's not a negative thing. I feel like there are people that have passed on that look out for me. Brief, fun fact about me, whatever. What was weird was when I left the appointment and they wanted to run two things of labs for blood work, they sent me back out to the waiting room. And at that point, I knew, I didn't need chemo radiation, so obviously there's a lot of pressure taken off, and all I was waiting was to have blood work done, and that was it. But I looked around the room, and there were more people in the waiting room than were there before. And amongst that room, I see white shadows everywhere. I've never, ever, when you think someone's walking by and you look there, but there's no one actually there, I will actually see the person that's walking by. And they usually have a shadow, a dark color, not to because they're evil, just because it's just dark. This room had a ridiculous amount of white shadowed people. I mean, shoulder to shoulder, all in that room. And I just got, I'm looking around, and it wasn't necessarily around me. As I'm looking at a sign that says, "May there always be an angel by your side." Someone sent that to me. I do believe, I did have my cross on, whatever, but I do believe in angels, and I know the people that are here, that are in my apartment, that look over me, I feel like are loved ones that have passed on. But in that room, I'm like, I don't know who these people are. I don't know if they're people that have passed from cancer that are just there to give back to all these people that are in the room right now waiting to go in for treatments or whatever they're going in for. But I have never, ever been, and I've been involved in some funky, like, shit when it comes to that whole, like, visions and tarot reading and whatever. But I've never seen that amount of people, spirits, angels, whatever you want to call them, spirits, like in one location. So many of them, like a crowd, just like within the one rectangle in between all of the chairs. And I'm like, if there's any place where you need to have that, it's in a place like a cancer center. It was just a really, really intense energy. I mean, I had serious goosebumps, and like I said, it wasn't around me, and not because of anything. It's just like I was good, so I didn't feel like I needed it, and maybe so it was there, and I just didn't notice. But looking around that room, it really like weirded me out. But when I left, knowing that those like angels or whoever were still there to help with those people that are waiting for the chemo or waiting to hear whatever news they're waiting to hear, and just knowing that, you know, they have people watching over them even though they might not even know it. But like, I had my angel next to me in human form who was there to like drive in the car and blast Billy Squire while we're driving to the beach. What a day. I don't know. I'm pooped. I'm going to take some Tylenol. Hope it kicks in. Rearrange my cacophony of pillows back there. And hope that my boobs don't hurt in the morning, because I'm just so sore. I've just kind of had enough. All right. Just under an hour. But that was a lot to digest. And we'll keep going on this journey. I don't know. I'll see y'all tomorrow. I can barely even press the button. I didn't get the remote, so I'm going to do a super close-up. See you tomorrow.